Call to order the meeting of the Capital Outlay Committee for Wednesday, July 8th at 12:02. The first thing we want to do is approve the minutes for June 10th and June 18th. I know on the June 18th, Scott and Ann were the only ones that were at that meeting. So,
We can approve them.
so if you guys make the motion.
So moved.
Seconded.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Michelle?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
It's unanimous. All right, before we get into the guts of the meeting, I do have a correction from our last meeting's comments. When we were talking about the DPW building jointly with the potentially with the wastewater building, Rich made some comments. There was an inaccuracy in those comments, and the water commissioners were offended by some of the comments. So Rich and I have both had a number of conversations with the wastewater commissioners. We apologize. There was no intention to disparage anybody when he made those comments. So first, let me correct what was incorrect about what he said. He was making the point that there's two different audiences when you come to the DPW and the water wastewater department. Like they have two sets of customers, right? And they may have had two experiences. But he linked the wastewater department to the construction of the sewers, which is not theirs to do. They are not the reason we are constructing the sewers. That is really the select board, and basically that is the state of Massachusetts that's putting that onus on the select board. So Rich's point was you may have some people who are more upset about the fact that they have roads dug up and detours, and they're paying for connections, and they're paying for it in their taxes. But that's really not on the wastewater department. So they took offense to that, and I get it, that was incorrect. So I want to correct that so everybody knows that is not the experience. Hopefully you can't blame that on the wastewater department. He also inadvertently said that people probably don't know who their wastewater commissioners are, and Bob over there, nobody knows him. Well, actually, Bob Young is the chair of the wastewater commission. He used Bob in a generic term, but I get why Bob would be offended by it. So we have apologized individually to a number of the wastewater commissioners, both Rich and I, and I just want to make a public apology. That was not our intent. I really actually think that maybe unfortunately for the water wastewater departments, they probably don't have as many interactions with people because they do such a good job, right? How many times do you really have to deal with your water or your wastewater? You don't really, right? And I can say personally, when I've had an interaction with them, they've been fabulous. They called me one time and said I had a leak, and I said, "What are you talking about?" And sure enough, my friend had come over, used the hose, and not shut it off at the spigot. So thank God. So I think they provide a great service, and we are not disparaging the service that they provide. And I think if people should realize that partly the reason you don't have to talk to them every day is because they do such a good job. Okay, I hope that rectifies everything and we can kind of move forward. Rich?
Well, since I've been spoken to as a third person, my apologies to,
Thank you.
if that is necessary. Had a conversation with people from that commission, and we talked and we worked things out, period.
Thank you, Rich. Okay, let's move on. We're going to reorganize. We're supposed to do that per the charter at our first meeting in July. This is our first meeting in July. Would anybody like to take over the chair? Anybody want to step up?
It's you, Martha.
Okay. I think, do we do them individually? I guess we'll do them individually. We need to make a motion.
I make a motion that we continue with you as the chairman.
Thank you.
Second.
You want to second it? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Michelle, are you still there?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yep, aye.
Ann is currently the vice chair. Would you like to
She's
continue?
doing a great job. I nominate Ann as the vice chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Thank you.
Good job.
And Scott is our clerk. Would you mind staying on as our clerk?
No, it's a heavy burden.
I
but
know
I'll-
you
I'll
have,
do it
I'm
again.
trying to lighten it for you, I promise. Want to make a motion?
I make a motion that Scott continues his great job as the clerk.
And you want a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Michelle?
Aye.
We're
Okay,
done.
Aye.
all the same.
One more time, yeah. Are we supposed to do this every year?
Yes,
Yeah, every year.
Every committee?
yes.
Every committee has to do it every year.
We haven't done it.
First meeting in July, so,
Didn't you read the charter?
Oh.
yeah. Oh, don't say that, because the charter people will not be happy if you don't do it.
Sorry.
Okay. So we just went over to the Shellfish Lab, or the Upweller, I think is how they call it, and Stephanie gave us a great tour. Does anybody want to make any comments about what they saw, their thoughts? I know we have the project for the building and which is, I think it's out a couple years. I don't have the schedule with me, but I think it's in 2 years.
I believe so, yep.
And I think it's about, I want to say it's about $2 million. And then we have, this year on the schedule, I think, is the engineering and design, and I don't know the number for that. It's a couple $100,000, I think. Rich?
I had a conversation with Jake before we got on the bus, and it was regarding the condition of the building and versus the timeline for funding and implementation of a repair or a restructure, whatever. But there's got to be I think that building needs some immediate attention in terms of, you want to call it Band-Aiding, but it needs somebody to go in and say, this is unsafe, this is safe. I don't know if, she's certainly doing a great job, but I wouldn't want to put the onus on her to say, this is what needs to be done, and I'm really good. And it just takes me back to when we had the library, and the librarian had to say that the electric had to be done this way, and lights, you guys weren't around then. And she went through, she physically did an engineering study as a librarian.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to be the responsibility of this young lady, because she's doing a fantastic job of what she's paid to do.
I agree with you, Rich, and we're fortunate enough that we have Sean Libby in
Yeah.
the capacity we have him in, so I'll take a ride down there with Sean, take a look at it, and come up
And
with
she's
some
shutting-
short-term plans.
My understanding is that shop closes like in July or October-ish.
Yeah,
So there's time where nobody's gonna be in there, and
yeah, and that wouldn't even affect her budget. I mean, the way
Yeah.
we manage the facilities budget is centralized operation, so.
Well, would that come up through the engineering work, like, hey, you need a new electric panel, let's say? Would that be part of
It
the
will,
engineering work?
but I think in the short term, I'm gonna have Sean just look
Just
at
go down.
structural stability, just
Yeah.
make sure
Yeah, that
that's safe.
floor was a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
creaky.
So
And
it's-
I've lost weight, dang. I felt that floor was a little creaky.
Yeah, so to be clear, what we applied for was the design and engineering associated with a new facility. We applied to the MVP program and to the Seaport Economic Council. This is one of those instances where we literally took the same application and put it in 2 different pathways in the hope that we have success with one of them. If we do, I think there's a match requirement as part of it, but it would obviously significantly change the dynamic of the funding
And the way
associated
it
with the
works
project.
is we have to fund the whole thing regardless
Yeah.
of what we think we may get in grant, so, just so people know.
Yeah, and at that time, we'll have a signed grant, so it'll be easier to sell it.
Oh,
to.
okay, okay.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
We
by the
don't
time we
usually
get to
have that.
town, by the time we get to town meeting.
Right,
Yeah, we'd have a
right.
signed grant.
okay,
So,
okay.
We still appropriate the whole amount, but it's net the grant, so.
Yeah, and I think if there's any lessons that we could learn from Chatham, I know they just went through this process and they had some bumps, and I think ours is maybe a different process, but I know Stephanie's been in touch with them, she knows that operation,
Yeah.
so.
The good news is if we're fortunate enough to get funded through either MVP or the Seaport Council, the plan would be to go back next year for construction money. They typically are
Okay.
the type of organizations where if they fund the design, they understand, you're coming back
Oh,
with the construction
okay.
funding. We had success in Harwich with Seaport Economic for the Harbor Master building itself in that aspect, design then construction, so.
What percentage is it? Because it's a,
There's a match, but it's, I'm not sure, I'm not gonna take a guess. It might be 80/20, I'm not sure.
okay, it might be 80/20.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can't
That would be
remember. I
helpful.
know there's a,
Yeah.
it's not, it's not 100% grant
Right,
funded,
yeah.
but 80/20 is certainly better than 100% in the capital plan.
Yep.
All right, any other comments, observations, concerns? Michelle, if you ever get a chance to go over there, it really is quite fascinating. That was my first time over there, and that was incredibly helpful to see it.
Jay,
Yeah, so today we're the first street on the sewer phase, so I can't leave my house. Well, I can leave my house, but my car's parked all the way across Queen Anne, so that's why I'm not there in person. But
Got it.
I would like to take a visit down there at some point.
Michelle, if you're interested, just reach out and I can set it up.
That's great, thank you.
Welcome.
does the individual parts of whatever needed there accumulative greater than 50,000? Or are there pieces that are 50,000 and greater?
Well, the building, obviously. I don't know, but I can't answer that on the internal components. None of them look like they'd be more than 50,000 to me.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah,
If it's a
yeah.
capital expenditure, it's gotta be 50 grand or
Right.
more. Unless we package it as
As one whole.
200,000 to, yeah, that's my
Honestly, like,
point.
you know, she got, as she mentioned, she got some CPC money to deal with the tanks right now.
So
And
she's replacing
the
those.
building is the main issue.
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
gotta deal
Yeah.
with.
Yeah,
And
that
and we could
building
get
is-
creative with ways to deal with the internal components once we have success with the building. But
Okay.
God, we gotta figure the building out, because that thing's not gonna last another 10 years. You know.
Yeah,
We're gonna lose that.
yeah, it's going
We're
in.
gonna lose that.
It's
you know.
tilting a little bit to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think we wanna lose that as a community.
Right,
No.
right. Okay, so, I mean, there'll be more on this as it comes onto the plan and we go through it again.
Yeah, we'll discuss it this year, because it
Yeah.
will be impacted whether we get the grant or not, and how we wanna handle the design component of it.
All right, so we'll move on to, the charter. So on June 18th, Scott, Ann, and I, in a joint meeting, technically, the Charter Commission had a public hearing. We went. I just want to say, first of all, that Brendan did a great job as the moderator. He really did a great job. I had a lot to say, I know I did, and I was tough and snarky, and I know I was. But it was frustrating to me to see some of the language in there that I don't think we had seen before, in places that we hadn't seen it before. I did listen to their meeting that was right after, the next meeting after the public hearing. At first, they thought we were gonna be at that meeting. At the end, Linda said to me, we need another joint meeting, and I said, fine. There was no way we could have, within that week, gotten another meeting together. So I'm not sure why they thought we would be there, but I will say they were very gracious on me. They could have been a lot tougher. They could have been a lot tougher. And I know I was tough. We talked about, I talked about what their charter was as a group, in sort of making the document more concise, clearer, more efficient, modernizing it. And in some places, I really felt like we were going backwards instead of forward. But there were things like, easy ones, and they did agree in their next meeting about infrastructure. They did not include that word as one of the types of capital, and clearly that is sewer, water pipes, roads. So they are going to add that back in, which I think is helpful. I guess the ones that I really had a hard time with, one, there's language, and I don't know if it's still in there, but there's language in there that says that if we are asked to by the select board, that we would prepare the capital plan, and we've had this discussion. And we've all agreed we won't prepare the capital plan. We're volunteers, we're an advisory committee, that's really not our role. There are people who still think that we do that, which I don't know why. And I don't know why the town would want a volunteer committee to prepare one of their major financial documents. It's just, that has to come out of there as far as I'm concerned, because you have a whole staff. Jim could do it.
Yeah, I mean,
Jen could do it.
we're really failing at our jobs if we're not preparing the plan.
Right,
Yeah.
we weigh in on it, we advise on it, we ask all kinds of questions, and that's more for the public to get full sense of the projects way before they get to town meeting, but,
I mean, you guys,
Still in there, by the
May
way.
I ask
Is
a
it?
question?
yes,
Still
Michelle,
in there? It is?
hold on, Michelle?
What, is there any rationale or was any reason given for why that, under what circumstance that might occur?
No, I
No.
don't know why. I mean, I've heard one of the select board members say that we prepare it, and I go ballistic every time I hear that. And it's, you know, I think the words are important, right? We work in conjunction with, we advise, but we don't prepare. Prepare means, in my mind, I just want to be clear, that we meet with department heads, we decide their priorities. That is just not what we do. We don't have enough, one, the department heads don't work for us, so they don't need to pay attention to us at all, and they shouldn't.
No.
So I don't really understand it.
It's really confusing because in the same section, 952, it both says that the Capital Outlay Committee shall assist the town administrator in the development of the capital outlay plan, which is a good sentence.
Right.
Of course.
And then later, towards the end, it says, the Capital Outlay Committee shall, in conjunction with the town manager, develop a 5-year capital outlay plan. So that puts us in charge of
I
it.
think we put that language in there, honestly, Scott.
Shall in conjunction is ours?
Shall in conjunction with, but
I-
it's referring to the same 5-year capital plan with different language. One sentence has to go. and-
Right, okay,
And they're subtly different. I mean,
yeah.
Assist should stay.
Yeah, I think assist, I think the first sentence in 952 is better than the third one or fourth one.
Did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, we're one of the few committees that require representation by other committees. We've got
Right.
and
Right.
that's clearly, the input from the other committees are what drives this thing. And then the recommendation of whoever you represent, like I represent,
Yep.
you know, you, and Paul does or whatever. And I think finance, that has to be represented, I think. It adds value to the fact that this is not a group of 7 people who are selected by somebody because they have NDAs.
Right, I mean,
Okay,
Michelle
but-
and Scott are supposed to report back to the finance committee.
Exactly,
right?
and you have
Let's
planning.
refer to
Right.
planning.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think that should be noted.
Yeah.
It is, it's the first section of the capital outlay committee.
What does it say?
How
talks about
it's
the
developed.
composition.
How
Yeah.
our
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah,
Who
that's in
nominates who?
there, that's fine.
Yeah, and that's unchanged.
Yep. The next part that I don't understand why, but in section 9.6.1, they deleted what we all need, the items that we listed that we need to review the capital requests, like cost estimates, time schedule, funding source, concise narrative. They don't think we need funding source, but I feel like we do need funding source, because if you came to us, and I know you would never do this, but if you came to us and said, hey, we're gonna get the, 2 vehicles via debt, we would be like, no way, and we would all vote that down, right? There's no need to raise debt on
pay for it.
on a car, right? Like, it doesn't make sense that we have to raise debt to pay for our cars. I think then we're in a big pickle if we have to do that. But part of the funding, needing funding is, it may impact somebody's vote here on the committee, so I think we do need it, right? But they picked that up and they moved it to a section where we have the joint meeting with the select board and FinCom to say that it's required that we submit all that information to them, which, you all know, you've seen my book, it's 4 inches thick. I mean, it's not just, and again, to the representation thing, the finance committee already has people on. If they need, they will call a department head in, they can ask for it, same with the select board. It shouldn't be a requirement that somebody in your office has to make 20 copies of a book at the joint meeting. I don't think that's necessary, right? It's necessary for us to see it, but I don't think, the whole purpose that we exist is so we go through the detail, right?
I sort of disagree on the funding source. I think it's up to Jay
It is, but
We don't know what the financial impact of each funding source could be or would be applicable to the expense or to the capital
but
outlay.
I think it could influence somebody's vote on whether they want to vote favorably or not.
So if Jay came up and said, I've got 12 projects and 3 of them are gonna go this way, 4 are gonna go this way, and 5 are gonna go this way, we're gonna say, why, and are you sure?
No, I think, for example, somebody.
We
if
don't
you- if
vote
you-
on that.
I know, but if you came in last year and said, we're gonna put on another sewer project, and we're gonna add to the debt, somebody may say, I'm not comfortable doing that right now. And that would be that could affect their vote.
I don't buy it.
It's
That's
a really
me.
good fundamental question. I don't know where I stand on it, because your example is a good one of cars, or some expendable thing that happens to be over $50,000, and you gotta buy it every year. You just, in terms of financial prudence, you don't wanna be funding that with debt.
Correct.
Right.
But, is that part of our committee, or is that part of the finance committee and the select board review process of the wisdom of funding sources? And I don't know where I stand on it. I have the luxury of being on the finance committee where I know it's
Right.
within my purview.
Right.
To say, no, you can't fund that with debt. Or no, an extra sewer phase right now, even though we really need it to accomplish the goals of the CWMP, it's really important and we need to get going on it. That's all, I think, one train of thought is that's all we're doing is evaluating the necessity of capital projects and the prioritization of capital projects. That's one way of thinking about our charge.
Yeah.
An example,
I've been around long enough to know whether that works for us, or whether we should also have the funding source and the budget impact evaluation as well.
the impact, the example I'm thinking of, is police cars. For years, they were capital items. And then somebody decided, not us, that they were gonna be an annual expense. We never voted that's a great idea or a bad idea. I'm just throwing that out. That happened to us 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, things have come back on the capital plan that were part of the budget, definitely.
So I guess I'm a little torn on it too, because like in the one hand, I don't think I've ever participated in a capital process where there wasn't something in the form that says, how is this funded? To at least have the conversation. But vice versa, I've never been involved in a capital process where we came here and voted on how I was gonna pay for it.
No, we
You know what
don't
I'm saying?
vote on that. We don't vote on funding.
But I don't know, I guess it depends on how much you weight the funding source in part of your vote, whether you are or not, because you say you're not voting on it, but you're also saying that I could not vote on a project because of the funding source, you know?
Let's,
That doesn't, I mean, you decide the funding source.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
it's your
also-
recommendation.
But I guess I've also never participated in a process where on the form, it didn't say, how is this gonna get funded? So that there's a general awareness of
right,
it, you
right,
know?
and that's all, but I don't know why it's such a big deal to have that.
Yeah, so it should be part of the discussion, it just shouldn't be the basis of the vote at the end, I don't
Yeah.
think, is
Well,
what
I
I'm
think
saying.
our form now does have the funding source.
Yeah.
It
So
doesn't,
is this a change to the charter? Like it doesn't, what does it say right now when it's?
well, we added what we need to make our decision in this
Yeah.
section, right? And it was, we need a cost estimate, we need the time schedule, we need the description of the project and funding source, and they took out funding source.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Well, they took out, I don't know whether this is new or something we added, that we're supposed, this is struck, and to attempt to keep the debt borrowing levels as even as possible year to year.
right. Yeah,
Is that something we added?
no, that was there,
And
and I
hopefully
think
it's
it is, I think everybody realizes that that's really hard for us to do, right?
Yeah, that's my
And-
job.
Finance
Yeah,
committee.
that's
And
your
with the
job.
sewer-
That's our job together.
Finance committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the sewer, would that mean we wouldn't approve something because it jacked up the tax rate or something? I don't know what the answer is, like.
I agree. I don't know why that would be in the charter,
Yeah.
that that's the charge of this committee.
Yeah,
That's the
so
charge of the
we
finance
all, I
committee.
think we jointly agreed that needed to come
To come
out.
out.
But
think-
I guess my point would be, if the funding source doesn't make the cut, it might not be worth fighting because it's gonna stay on the form.
Right, okay,
So
All
it
right.
doesn't need to be in the charter for me to have it on the form that
No.
says,
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that,
Information purposes.
yeah.
there have been years where we had no idea how things were gonna be funded, and things were getting pulled in and pulled out and
And things do
pushed on.
change too, like,
Yeah,
we-
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely,
you know,
absolutely. We are totally fine with that,
like, I
once it
think
goes to the
something's gonna
select
be
board.
free cash all the way up until March, and
Yeah.
then we do
Yeah.
something different, you
Yeah.
know?
So I think that now, obviously, in the warrant, the budget, the immediate year, every dollar has to be attributed to a funding source.
Correct.
Correct,
But the years 2 through 5.
Yeah, there's no
No,
funding
no.
source.
Have never had a funding
No.
source.
correct.
Yeah, I would
It's not on
agree.
the form, and it's not in the warrant.
Right,
Just on the year one.
Right. However, one of the things that Jen has committed to do is to do a 5-year operating forecast. And a significant input to that forecast is the capital budget and
Yeah.
how that impacts the operating budget. And for that, you need to know what funding sources are being thought of,
Absolutely.
contemplated. Might not have to be in the warrant, but for the 5-year operating forecast,
Right.
it should be in the inputs to that forecast.
right.
It will be. It has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know
I-
that
I
that's the
mean,
charge
and-
of this committee either. you
And some
know?
of them are pretty obvious, like, that they're gonna be free cash, or they have to be debt, right? Like, you kinda know that that's gonna be
Yeah.
the case. I mean, I get it. If you don't have enough free cash, then where do you go, right? You
Right.
gotta,
Anything, I
plug
mean,
it.
anything over 500,000, we're not gonna use free cash, you
right,
know?
right.
But I think, just to add, I think the charter language is important because the charter's gonna outlast all of us.
Right.
And it will, when we're not here making these reasoned decisions, somebody else will be trying to figure out what did they mean by that. So the funding source, I don't think is a have to, but I think we should operate with it.
Right, okay, that's fine, if that's the way you guys wanna go, that's fine. But I think right now, my major point is, it got moved from what we need to do our job
To
to
work that you
what
have to-
has to get submitted in the joint meeting, and I think,
No, please
I don't think that's the place for all the detail to come forward, like, in the last couple of years, I will talk to all the changes and the major
Yeah.
projects, and if they want to, like they did this year, they brought back, the harbor master and the director of natural resources, because they had questions, right? The finance committee can bring in any department head they want and go through. Michelle did a great job representing the capital outlay committee to the finance committee this year, summarizing what we approved and what we didn't approve. But, totally would expect that if there's a big project, that they're gonna wanna hear directly from the department head about the details, and that's part of their role. So I don't know how making somebody make all those copies at that joint meeting is
It's not
helpful to anybody.
Can you give us an update, or do we know about this 2/3 vote issue?
So, okay, let me just keep going, and we'll get to the 2/3 vote.
By the way, Martha, are you reading from the July version 3 that's currently posted?
No, I'm recapping what went on in
Okay.
the meeting. Yeah, I don't know where they are with it. I haven't, and I know they've made changes since. So one of the things that they did have on June 18th was that every capital budget item shall be individually, be funded individually by a separate article. And that one that was the one that got me. We had 32 items last year. If we have to do 32 items at town meeting individually,
Talking about the budget, not the plan.
the budget,
Budget.
yeah, we'll be there forever,
Well,
right?
now it says.
Yes,
to
they've
reassure you, it says that projects being funded by similar funding sources may be grouped into a single article, which is
Correct.
basically just describing current practice.
Correct.
There's an article for the free cash, there's an article for CPC.
Yeah.
There are
Each
separate articles
debt.
for exempt debt
Yes,
for each project.
yes.
So I think that's reassuring.
Yeah,
in the July version
Yeah,
of-
because, that really is, I was being really snarky. I said, let's say it takes 5 minutes for 32 articles, right? Because of the way that they were counting the articles, so this gets back to the 2/3 things, but 6 of the articles were new to the plan, and that has been incredibly bothersome to some members of that charter commission. 4 of them were unexpected. I don't know what else to say about that. But they want 2 votes on those 6, so that's 12 votes on those. And then the other 26 would need each an individual vote. And if you said everyone took 5 minutes, you're 2.5 hours at town meeting voting capital. And that just seemed Like, that's overkill to me. So I'm glad to hear that they are willing to rein that back in. In terms of, they added a new section that I found incredibly confusing. What they're telling us is in years 2 through 5, we can do what we need to do, right? And no 2/3 vote on years 2 through 5. We need a 2/3 vote in year 1 on any item. I thought it was any item that was new and never been on a prior capital plan. Although they changed it in one of their meetings, so I'm confused again. But what they didn't do when they talked about years 2 through 5 is you could only move items among those years. You could change the cost if the cost changed. But they didn't allow you to add or delete items, and that was problematic for me because we've had to add items in year 3, you know? So I don't know why we need any language in year 2 through 5. If we have the ability to do what we need to do, why do we have to have any language? But there's this,
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I thought that was what we talked about with them when I participated
Yeah,
with them. And I mean, I was okay with personally, I was okay with if something jumps from year 5 or year 4 to year 1, having to sell that as a 2/3 vote
and
as
so
well.
that's where they went with that. They did
And
go
that-
back
And I
there.
think honestly, like, that's on us to sell it and explain why, because it's all needed. But anything we want to do in years 2 through 5, what does that impact?
Right, I think there's this thought process that you need to roll that forward because you don't want department heads jumping over each other, which
I mean, I can get that conversation for year 1, for the rationale as to why I'm okay with it is
And I was
because
fine
we
with
just have to sell at a town meeting.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
was fine
the-
with that too. I think the problem I have is, why do we have any language in year 2 through 5 if we can do what we want? Because that language, I found it very cumbersome and
Agreed.
just unnecessary, right? In year 1, if it is new to the plan, regardless of how it's gonna be funded, it's gonna need a 2/3 vote. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with, and even
If it jumps the gun.
something jumps over between years 2 and 5, it needs a 2/3 vote. What I'm not okay with was they wanted 2 votes. So and even Bob McCready got up and said,
Yeah,
that's a
it's right
lot of
here,
votes. They want to vote, and I don't think they can do this, but what they were expecting is that the taxpayers would place those items onto the budget, but they're already on the budget, so I don't know that they can do it. I also feel that Michael Ford will always say taxpayers can't make the town spend money, right? And it feels like I don't know if it's a check and balance, it's a separation of roles, but how can they put it on when it's already on there, and then vote it on, and then vote it again for funding? I think you could do it more efficiently if you said, the way that you wrote the article. So the town acknowledges that this item was not on a prior budget or is from years 2 to 5 and is moving forward and is willing to fund it, and it needs a 2/3 vote. I think if you use the wording of the warrant, you could get 1 2/3 vote for those items. I don't think we need 2. That's just my thought. Because again, it's confusing. It's
I
just
don't know
really
why we would
confusing.
need 2 either.
Yeah.
That makes no sense to
Yeah,
me.
so those are
Can accomplish more than one thing in a motion.
yeah. I mean, I just don't, I don't think the taxpayers will have the ability to place something on the capital plan. I don't think that's their role. Maybe we need a legal opinion on that. I don't know.
They're proposing that?
That was what part of the discussion was in this meeting.
That
yeah.
the people from the floor can add to the capital plan?
Well, no,
in
they
live
were,
time?
so like, let's say the boat, let's use the boat as an example. So the first vote would be that the taxpayers are agreeing to put the boat on the capital plan in year 1. That's the first 2/3 vote. And then you need a 2/3 vote to fund the vote.
Yeah, you could just have one motion, and it's to, do we want it on the capital plan, and it's
Right.
gonna
And
take
is it
debt,
funded?
so.
I mean, I don't, to me, that vote, I know that vote is a sore spot for people, and I get it. But it got the highest level of scrutiny that you can get in the town of Harwich when it it went through the department head review, it went through the town administrator review, it went through the capital outlay committee review. And I'm not saying everybody voted yes on it wasn't a unanimous vote in any of these committees, but that's okay. It was a majority vote. It went through the select board, it got voted on positively. The finance committee put a positive motion. It got a 2/3 vote on town meeting floor, and it got a majority vote at the ballot box. And now we're gonna add another vote in there. If we had done it the way I think people want it done, you'd put it on year 5, you'd wait till year 1 and it got funded, and then you wait 3 or 4 years before you actually get the boat and it's constructed. So you have a 9 years to get the boat, and maybe somebody missed that, right? Like, it's possible that it was missed somewhere, that it needed to go on that capital plan early. I get it, it happens, right? But how much more do you need in terms of people saying, I'm good with it, than we already have? I don't know, it just seems excessive, but if we have to have another 2/3 vote, so be it, but not 2.
I think that the only 2/3 vote that I would be comfortable with is a project that's appearing in year 1, in other words, in the capital budget, that has never appeared in the capital plan prior.
And that was the vote this year.
That's what I would support, the 2/3 vote.
Not if it skipped from year 3 to year
Not if
1,
it went from 3 last year to 1 this year, that's just
the timing,
the timing changes,
Yeah.
priorities change.
You're saying new.
And the town has seen it.
Right.
But if it's brand new and its first appearance is in year 1, that's the narrow case that I would support the 2/3.
okay,
But that's the only
And
one.
that's what we did.
And the language right now is so confusing.
yes.
Literally interpreted, it says, and I'm gonna eliminate some words, it says, any capital project that has not been included on any prior year capital outlay plan shall require a 2/3 vote at town meeting. That means that all year 5 projects that weren't in prior year plans has to get a 2/3 vote. Were they really
No,
intending that?
then, no,
I don't think so.
no, I don't,
So
that's
their
not-
their wordsmithing is off,
right,
and sometimes it's mutually contradictory
Right.
Within the same area.
the latest draft.
So maybe what I could ask Linda is if she would send me the marked up copy, and we could accept their changes, and then we could edit it the way we think it should, so they can see what our thoughts are back. Maybe that's the way to do it.
Where are they in this process? How much time do
So
we have left
they
for
have,
this?
they're about ready to go, well, this must have been, end of June when they had their meeting after the June
After us,
18th
yeah.
meeting. That's the only one I saw. I didn't see last week's.
They didn't have a meeting last week.
Oh, okay. They are about, my understanding is they're about to go to, they've hired outside counsel to review it. They want to make sure that they won't run afoul of any mass general law. And apparently, the firm that they've hired has done 17 of these, so they're familiar with the people that they worked with from UMass, I think. Is that who their consultant is?
Collins Center.
Yeah, so they're getting ready to send it out, and they have, I want to say they have 6 months before they have to submit it. I mean, that,
Something has to go to the state this fall.
yeah,
Something, yeah.
yeah. Well, maybe it's not 6 months, but it's,
Yes,
It's in the
This fall,
fall.
they need to send something to the
Yeah,
Attorney General.
yeah.
Who says in this town that whatever the result of their negotiations or upgrades and so forth is correct and acceptable to the town of Harwich? That committee?
They send what they want to the Attorney General. The Attorney General gives them feedback about whether it's
To
legal,
them.
and then it
So
goes on the
The
ballot.
town,
The
you
town
guys
doesn't-
don't have a word
don't
to
get a
say.
vote.
You guys elected them.
The
You
Board of
elected them to do
Selectmen-
that. You elected
But
them.
I mean, they've had
separate,
joint
and-
meetings and people have spoken out, right? Like,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
select board had their chance to say what they thought,
But the town elected them to do this.
yeah, and then they go right to the ballot box.
But your feedback to them is important because it's on them to get it approved at the ballot box, so.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I've been ferociously fighting, I know I have, but I don't know who else would do it for us, and I don't know why the capital plan, I still don't understand why the capital plan is such a bugaboo in the town of Harwich. I really don't.
It's a bugaboo in this particular charter review. It seems to be bringing up old issues, because you can never get them to say, what problem are you trying to solve by
Right.
this language?
Right.
Okay, so it sounds like if they have to send something to the state by the fall, and it's July, we need to make sure our language is correct, or.
I think we're getting closer,
We are getting closer.
definitely.
It's still,
And
there's
then
still some clunkiness in it, but we can get there. I think,
And just one
I
more.
want us to get there.
I agree. Just one more comment, because we didn't, and it's tangential to the same discussion. What happened to this compliance commission?
I believe it's still in there.
Okay, because I
Yeah,
didn't
so
have a chance.
They were adjusting that to be, like, the compliance people, like this board, the elected board, would have a hearing, and then there would be members who did the hearing. It's kind of like you do with the liquor license, right? There would be a hearing, and certain people would be on that hearing.
But I just want to make the point from this June 18th meeting, that compliance discussion was also talked about. If somebody had violations to the charter, then they may not get appointed to a committee again. So it had a punishment factor that I was
Yeah, I don't know what-
absolutely not in favor of, but we ran out of
Yeah,
energy
you have to,
to talk
you
about
have to
it.
go in front of them and voice that concern. That, I mean, they did use capital as an
Yes,
example in
They
their
did.
compliant, because we are not complying right now to the 2/3 vote, right? And here's my understanding of it. The prior town administrator went to the legal people, and the way that my understanding is, the way that the charter was written, is that if you made a change to the capital plan, and this was the whole plan, you added something, moved something, changed the dollar amount, you needed a 2/3 vote at town meeting. And my understanding, and I could be wrong, was that the lawyer said, well, if you change the plan by 70 or 80%, it's not the original plan anymore, so you don't need the 2/3 vote. That was what came out of that. So we have not been operating with this 2/3 vote. And in that hearing, you heard Ed McManus get up and say, when he was doing it, and I think he was on the finance committee at the time, it was incredibly difficult for them to figure out where they needed a 2/3 vote. It was,
Let's not make it even more complicated.
yeah, it was very complex. So I will feel comfortable if we can get to the point where years 2 through 5, we don't have to have any votes. We can do what we need to do. I would like to see no language in the charter on that, because we don't need it, right? There's nothing there to, what do you need to,
So, Martha, do we need another
we're gonna
meeting
need
with them?
another joint meeting, unfortunately. So I'll call Linda, and if she'll
I'll
talk.
go to that meeting too.
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
We're all there together. I told Linda
I
the
think
same
they
thing.
need to hear more directly from you, if I
Yeah.
can. Because they think, well, Jay's okay with it, and I know when you're new, you're trying to say, well, I guess I could live with that, but I don't want us to live with something for 10 years that is cumbersome and confusing, and we have to bring in lawyers to help us work
Yeah.
through
And
it.
it has a penalty clause.
And I think
Well,
I've
that's
made
the
it
whole
kind of
thing.
clear, like,
Right.
I disagree with Scott a little in that I would be okay with, and if it jumps, it needs 2/3 as well, but I don't think there should be anything in the charter about years 2 through 5.
Right.
I
So
mean,
jumping from 3 last year to 1 this year.
I don't love it, but to
Yeah.
build consensus, I'd be okay with it, because it's on us to sell why that had to happen anyway,
Right.
but
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any rules about how.
to be honest, if I wrote the charter, you wouldn't vote the capital plan.
Right, right, right.
We would just vote the
Well-
budget for the year.
There's no consequence of voting down the capital plan.
No,
If you're voting yes on all the capital
Right.
budget items.
Yeah, it makes, so I don't know.
In the sense of the community.
But I think at
Right.
this point, it's not about what we think, it's about building consensus to get to something that we can all live with,
it just, we don't do this in the operating budget. If you had a 5-year
Right.
operating budget, nobody tells you how to put it together, where you have to do bottoms up, or you do top down, or you grow it by 10%, whatever. Nobody tells you how to do that, right? You get to decide how to do that, and I think that should be the same with the capital plan, but
Yeah, we're in a situation now.
I'm like a crazy woman right
We're in
now.
a situation where they were elected to make changes or to propose changes, so.
But we're in the
Future
weeds of
agenda.
it. The people
Are you
voting on
almost
it won't be.
finished?
I have one other
Yeah,
item that had come up before, but it still confuses the heck out of me. So it says, this is 9-6-7, by the way, in the
Yeah.
July version. It says that if town meeting approves something in the capital budget, and then it fails because it needs an exclusion in the annual town meeting, that we're compelled to put it back in year one of the following year. There's no wiggle room at all. So for instance, let's say that the DPW shed had been approved at town meeting, but not approved in the vote, town election. We couldn't go back and merge it with wastewater and wastewater. Or, it doesn't even say that we can change the amount. It has to come back, the unapproved portion that wasn't approved at the election has to come back in the following year into the capital budget.
right.
Well, it's
I
a
never
really
thought
good
of that.
example. We have a really good example right there of why that's not a good idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so maybe we can bring that up in the joint meeting, yeah.
It actually sounds like somebody's got a really bad taste in their mouth
About
about a
something.
project that disappeared.
That's true.
Didn't come up for vote and election
Right.
the following year.
Right. And it could have
Who knows
been,
how long
yeah,
ago.
Could have been
I could
anything.
guess which one it is, but, yeah, and,
Okay, so we need a meeting.
yeah, so we need another joint meeting, and I'll work with Linda about that. All right. Topics, agendas, and I'm gonna put site visits in there. I was thinking that maybe in August, we could just do site visit and no meeting. And then the site visits would be to the middle school and to Chatham's wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah,
And then we'll do our meeting in September, and maybe our September meeting can be sort of the financial meeting that Jen comes to, and we sort of kick off what projects are outstanding, and we review that so we know where we are with all the projects. I would love for her to give the debt presentation, and I would also like to give a shout out for her for the financial package that she put together to the taxpayers. That was very informative and really, really good. She did a great job.
She did.
I meant to send her an email and I didn't. So maybe that's what September could be, sort of just getting us kicked off for the year on the finances, and then we'll figure out October, maybe a little too early for you to start the planning. We're not gonna have anything to look at that meeting first meeting in October. Usually we don't pick it up until closer to
Well, I would
November.
hope that between now and then, you and I can meet privately and figure out the plan.
Okay.
I've spent some time with Natasha already kind of trying to track dates and putting everything together. We were both waiting until 4th of July passed
Yeah,
to
yeah.
start focusing too heavy on starting the process, but if you want to participate with Natasha and I, kind of, so the three of
Yeah.
us are all on the same
Yeah.
page,
If
that
I
would be
can
good.
remember what we've done in the past, it's
Yeah, it
been
would be
pretty
helpful.
consistent. Yes.
One other agenda item that I may have mentioned at a prior meeting, but I'm thinking about it a little bit differently now, is the comprehensive wastewater management plan, which is being updated soon. It has such huge implications for the capital budget.
Mhm.
I think that we would benefit tremendously by having a presentation by the consultants that prepare that plan, either before or after the select board approves it.
Yeah, when are they going in front of the select board?
Monday.
Oh, okay, I
This
might,
coming meeting?
I'll come
Yeah,
down.
Monday. Yeah, and I invited the water and wastewater commissioners as well, so it'll be a good, and there, we're gonna discuss the building as well, so it would be a good one to watch.
Okay,
or Come
alright.
to if you're interested.
So maybe, right, we could, if you want to do that in September, and then we do the financial one in October, we could even do that, if that makes more
If we're not
sense.
ready by October, that would be a good
Yeah,
plan.
yeah,
The
okay.
CWMP would be an hour.
I just want to make sure we hit Jen at a time where I know she's crazy busy all the time,
Well,
but,
right now is harder than it will be. September's not a horrible time.
okay.
I'll talk to her and see what she wants to do.
so we're gonna have 2 site visits and then leave and never discuss what we
We'll
said.
discuss it at the next meeting.
A month later,
You want to meet for
I mean,
15 minutes and talk
I mean,
about it?
it made sense today where we were there and it
Okay.
was fresh in our minds.
Just the one item on the agenda?
Yeah, that would
Just
be
the
it.
debrief?
Yeah.
Really, I mean,
Okay.
it's,
Okay, we
We're
can do
gonna be
that.
in the van, so we'll all be together
we
anyway.
can meet in the van.
Well, you have to
Can't
make
meet
it
in
a
the
public
van.
meeting, don't you?
in the van.
Can't meet in the van.
There's
Leave
no-
the van,
you
come
need
here
the-
for 10
I
minutes.
would
Yeah,
also, oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, because
Yeah.
if there's any action items like putting a Band-Aid on that building, it has to be official.
Okay, all right, so we can do that.
We'll have a
That's-
10-minute meeting
Yeah.
in here when we get
Yeah.
back from Chatham.
We just have to figure out the timing of it.
Yeah, I gotta have to work with you on that, because we're gonna have to tell them when we're coming and stuff, so.
Yeah, the other thing is, I don't know if any of the, if we're gonna go to the wastewater facility, I think Jason should be there.
That's what I was gonna invite,
And
but
then-
I wasn't gonna bring him to the school, so I was thinking we'd
Yeah.
tell him a certain time and
Yeah.
tell him to meet us in the parking lot at the wastewater treatment
Yeah,
facility.
and I don't know, they do have some new commissioners, I know like Ann Frechette is new, like, I don't know if that would be helpful for them to see that, or if they've already seen it, maybe,
I can talk to Jason,
yeah.
see if any of them
you know,
wanna join
If
us.
we're going and they wanna come, why not, right?
Yeah,
I don't think that's fine.
probably have Michael McMillan meet us at the school.
Yeah.
And do a quick tour with us at the middle school, and then we'll leave the middle school, and Jason and whoever from the wastewater board that's interested can meet us in the parking lot.
Yeah, like, I mean, how long do we think we need at the school? I mean, we're just gonna walk
It's
the
like
building.
15 minutes. I don't even think we'll go inside. It's
Yeah.
all
Okay,
exterior work.
okay.
Um,
Okay, and
We
then,
need 15, so it's 15 minutes to get there.
yeah, 15 minutes in the,
Yeah, so maybe we meet at like 11:30 at the wastewater plant, 11:35. Tell them we might be a few minutes late.
and that one might take a little bit longer.
That one's gonna take, but we won't have I'd say we're not back here till 12:30
Okay, okay.
for the
Great.
brief meeting.
All right, does anybody have anything else?
I just have a question.
Yep,
So for that meeting in August, where do we meet for the site visit?
so we're gonna come here first, and then we're gonna take the van to the two locations.
Got it.
And then we're gonna come back here and do the meeting.
And we don't have a date.
So
yet,
we-
just yet.
Yeah, it's August, second Wednesday in August.
At 11 o'clock.
I gotta get my calendar out, sorry.
I'll be sorry to miss that one.
So
gonna
it
be
would be the 12th,
Well, no,
I thought-
August
yeah,
12th.
12.
8:12, we would meet here like we did today at 10:50.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
8:12, okay.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye, aye.
Au revoir.
All right,
Thank you, everyone.
everyone enjoy the
Thank
rest
you.
of summer, whatever you're doing.
So do you